Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 65 of the All in Football Fantasy Premier League Show podcast. I am your host, the self-proclaimed FPL guru, Alex Rex. And joining me today, all on his lonesome, Scott Williams. Scott, how are you today?
Good, yeah. We're not allowed, are we, obviously, with the restraining order. Me and Baz can't be on Zoom calls together. So, yeah, that's why it's just me and E today.
It was either that or the fact that Barry really doesn't want to give away what he's going to be doing this week, with it going into the last game week of the season and him being top of the league. I think
Let's hope he's not doing an Arsenal and bottling it, because there's massive pressure on Baz, isn't there? Like, how many opportunities do you get? Like, you'd never in this position. Like, for me, he won't sleep on Sunday night if he don't bring it home.
No, I don't think he'll sleep. I think he'll sleep before Sunday night either, with the excitement.
How can you even look your little girl in the eye if you bottle it from this point? Like, you can't do it.
I couldn't. 2-4-3, Baz is on. Currently 8 points clear of David Byrne, who, as the Arsenal fan, you have led the league most of the way, and you now are in second. So we'll see. Could still take this down.
I love David Byrne. I asked him the other week. I was like, "Oh, how do you feel winning the podcast league?" He was like, "Oh, what?" It's like, the practice football. I was like, "Oh yeah, all right, innit?" Like, couldn't be more opposite opinions. I'm so laid back about it, and Baz is literally shaking.
Thing is, Dave's full of it. He listens to the pod. Hi, Dave, and also, I mentioned having him on a few weeks ago, and he couldn't make it on because we needed another player. He's like, "Oh, definitely, I'll be on at some point." Yeah, we love you, Dave. Thank you for tuning in every week, and you've done really well this year. But behind Barry and David, we've got two of the most experienced FPL managers in the league. We've got Jeff Belcher and Gavin Webb. And separating the top four going into, and we are recording pre-Brighton, Man City and Man United, Chelsea, by the way. So there are 2 games left of game week 37 left. But with 1 game week plus 2 fixtures to go, there's 15 points separating the top 4. Any of those 4 can win still. Like we always talk about 15 points is probably 1 game week's worth realistically where you can overturn it. And realistically, we're talking about, you can do more than that, obviously, in a game week. You have to go pretty differential. But I think 15 points is probably the max, really.
Who's your money on?
For them. I just feel like, I've said Baz all the way, so he was going to win it. I think you said the same with his position and his chips and everything else. I think Gavin Webb's got some real momentum, though. And you can't rule out Jeff. I said Jeff would be his biggest competition, didn't I? From a while back, I was like, I think Jeff's going to be your biggest competition to win this Baz. No offense to Dave, obviously been top of the league for ages, but I just know that Jeff is very good at FPL. And he does run very good sometimes with his picks. So my money's on Baz, but
who do you want to win it?
Not Baz. Now, do you know what? It'd be great if he does win, but I'd love to see any of these other 3 guys on the podcast talking about their seasons as well. We've had Jeff on the pod before. I think David or Gav would be fantastic to have on the podcast as well at the end of the season. Do I really want to win? It's Heather Howcroft. What a great story! Great use of your chips over the last few weeks. You've done really well in terms of the league. You've managed to pass Cully. You managed to leave Jack in your dust, and you're up to 5th. And 43 points is a bit much to overcome in 1 game week, especially with 4 players ahead of you. But still, you've done an amazing job up in 5th. Cully in 6th, Richard Kirk, Life of Brian doing a really great job in 7th, Jack in 8th. Some guy who has some sort of absolute miracle in 9th. That's me. Somehow managed to make myself to the top 10. Sandy Punjan in 10th, who stopped concentrating a little while ago. And then, that's I need to talk about the top 10, don't we, Scott?
Oh yeah. If you're not getting top 3, it's pointless.
Basically, yes. So really exciting going into the last game of the season. Lots of decisions to be made for all those managers. Won't go into their team specifically, so that's really fair. But what we will do is talk about generic thought processes behind certain decisions. But let's have a look at the cup, shall we? because we're currently in the midst of the semi-finals. We've got teams here with sort of 6, 7 or 8 players left still to play. So there's all still to play for. Steve Cousins is 42-39 up against Jason Wheel at this very moment in time. And then we've got Len Deacon, who's 35-33 up against Martin Wheel. There's a possibility of a really good final between these two. And it'd be a Wheel family affair if they make it through. Top draw jokes. Any jokes from you, Scott, about that? Or a reflection on
I think you're really struggling, mate. The wheels really came off towards the end of that.
There he is. Thank you. Has your camera gone off again? It was working a minute ago.
Yeah, it did. I thought you did it. It must have just... Did you not turn it off?
No.
All right. It just did it on its own. No, it's not working.
Is it not? No, it just keeps flashing at me. Never mind. So, yes, that's where we're playing. So, everyone, don't forget to follow us on Pod, on P, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And don't forget to like this YouTube video and subscribe to our channel, and also leave us a nice 5-star review on Spotify, podcast, wherever else. And subscribe to getting alert as to when these things go live. So we've got a couple more podcasts left this season. So just so you know about how our schedule is going to work, we'll have an end of season podcast next week, an end of season party, where we'll have the winner of the league and hopefully the winner of the cup on. So I don't know how many of these people actually listen to the podcast who are still in the cup. I know they're in the league, so I'll reach out to any of them because I'd love to have the winners of the competitions on. We'll have a reflect on the Premier League season and the podcast league. And then after the Champions League final, we'll do a football special where we'll have a nice chat about more football-related things rather than FPL-related things. Just it'd be nice to have a reflection. We'll do a team of the season, all that sort of stuff, and have a bit of a laugh for an hour or so about hopefully Man City not winning the treble. So let's crack on, shall we? Premier League table, Scott. Man City are the champions. Arsenal are second. Newcastle are definitely in the Champions League. Man United are a point off fourth. Liverpool are definitely in the Europa League. Potentially, it could end up in the Champions League, but very, very unlikely. Brighton are almost certainly in the Europa League as well. It's not that exciting, is it? Really?
Not at the top end, no. I think your Europa Conference League though is exciting because you're going to have 3 teams there. Let's say Brighton gets the point tonight, and I know it's going to be tough because they're playing that Man City team, but it is at Brighton, and Brighton are a bloody good team, and Man City will be rotating again. So if they, and then who do they play final game away at? Away at Villa.
Yeah, Villa
final game. Okay, but you've got to look at the teams that are going for Europe. So it's not like you usual Spurs, Chelsea, when it's a bit like meh. These are teams that are going to be absolutely buzzing. Like Brighton already in Europe, unbelievable season. Villa, from where they were at the start of the season, what a job Unai Emery's done there to get them. Right. It's in their own hands now. They can get Conference League. Spurs are the ones that are whatever, but Brentford again. I mean, look at that run they've been on. 4 wins out of the last 5. Unbelievable to give them a sniff again. What can they do last week again without Tony? Well, what they can do is they can, go to Spurs and do them over in the second half. Unbelievable result. So usually, it'd be a bit meh, like Europa Conference League, but because it's teams where you wouldn't expect to be there, I think that's a really exciting last sort of area, to be honest with you.
Well, Villa play Brighton, like you say. Spurs play Leeds. Both have something to play for. And Brentford play Man City, who don't have anything to play for. But if history tells us anything, Man City will play a relatively strong side. They've got a week before the FA Cup final and then another week before the Champions League final. So Pep will want some match fitness and some momentum, I'd have thought. I don't know what he's going to do tonight in terms of his team. I think it's a really unpredictable one tonight, but I think against Brentford, it's quite likely they'll play a relatively strong side. But anyway,
they can't not play a strong side, though, can they?
Well, yeah. Well, I think what I'm talking about with that is, did they play the FPL assets that everyone seems to have, which are sort of Stones, Grealish, and Haaland? I think he'll probably play Haaland. I'm not so sure. not sure about Grealish, but again, I think there's a high likelihood he'll play his FA Cup final team or his Champions League final team in that final match against Brentford, just because I think he'll want. There's a week before it. It's not like it's the midweek stuff, so he'll want match fitness. He'll want fluidity. He'll want momentum. I think personally, because one of the questions came in is what team is Man City going to play. I think they'll go pretty strong, personally. Brentford have that. But and at the bottom, so just to round that off for podcast listeners, Liverpool are fifth unless Man United lose their last two games, and Liverpool will beat Southampton. So if Man United lose the last two games, then that's potentially the way they can get in Champions League. Brentford, Spurs, and Aston Villa have 2 points separating the three of them for seventh place in that final Conference League spot. Then we go down to the bottom. Now that Forest are safe, it's Everton on 33 points, who played Bournemouth at home last day of the season. Leicester on 31 points, who play West Ham at home. And Leeds on 31 points with an inferior goal difference of 9 to Leicester, have Spurs at home. So the point that Leicester got was massive, really, for this. At the end of the day, Leeds now need to have two teams above them not get results. And they need to win rather than only having one team above them not get a result and to win. So it does make quite a big difference. I know a lot of Leeds fans think it didn't make a difference, but it quite obviously does statistically and probability wise. How do you see this before we get into the actual fixture, Scott, on the players that we need to consider?
I don't see a Sean Dyche team at home losing to Bournemouth last game of the season, or not winning, should I say. So I see Everton staying up. I can see all of them winning, and just ending like that.
Weirdly, so can I.
I'd just be shocked. Even a draw could be good enough, obviously, for Everton. Even if Leeds win, a draw is still good enough, unless Leeds win by 2 or 3 goals. No, I just think Everton do it. I think Dyche is too experienced. He's been in these kind of situations before, relegation battles. He will keep them up, and the crowd at Everton, it's a really good crowd when it gets going at home at Goodison. So the start of the game is going to be key. If Bournemouth nick an early goal, let's be honest, Bournemouth, unbelievable season in the end. Very rocky patch in the middle, but Gary O'Neill is done well. A lot of credit to him. So the fact that he's turned that around, if they nick an early goal, a goal's gone in at Ellen Road and at Leicester, they're going to be nervous, and it's not going to be straightforward as we're making it out. There's going to be twists and turns like there always is. But at the end of the day, I think Everton get the win, and unbelievably, Leicester are going to be down, not so unbelievably Leeds.
I think the craziest thing is Everton have only scored 33 goals this season in 37 games, and they're still going to survive.
I think
that's crazy.
It's ridiculous, but
and 5 of them were against Brighton in one match.
Yeah, I think what it does show though is if you're changing your manager, you've got to get the right man in. Wolves and Villa showed that. If you're going to change your manager, you've got to have someone perfect to come in. If you have, fair enough. If not, do what West Ham did. Do what Forest did. Stick with your man. David Moyes, brilliant manager. Brilliant manager. And I've stuck with him. And this could be, as it turns out, one of the best seasons in the history of West Ham United. If they win that, you stayed up and you won a European trophy. Brilliant. Forest, Cooper's done them amazing. He's took them from bottom of the championship to promoted. Stuck with him. Fair play to the owner, a bit of a maverick owner, but he's stuck with him, and he's reaped the rewards there as well. So it just really does say, if you're going to change your manager, have a man in mind and do it at the right time.
I don't want to get into the FPL stuff. I'm just going to have a little moan first of all about West Ham fans, and I listened to. I was driving home from an event I was at on Thursday after they'd just got through to the first European final they've been in since, was it 1968 or something? And they were asking West Ham fans the question about David Moyes. And they said, what do you think of David Moyes still? What do you think Well, we've had a bad one this season. It's still not clear to me, if he's the right man for the job to take us forward. People that were asking the question of how would you feel next season if he wasn't there, and a couple of the fans were like, well, not that fussed and this that. You don't deserve him.
No,
Like, you are a joke of a fan. I would go as far to say you are a joke of a fan. If you think that David Moyes isn't fit to manage your club, you've come 7th place twice in a row. He's then currently doing a rebuild of your team. He's getting some older players out, and he's getting some newer ones in, like Paquetas and players like this, trying to bring sort of like Danny Ings in to freshen up the striking side, and a few other players in the team. He's going to have to deal with some more turmoil this season with Declan Rice probably going in the summer. He's got you to a European final, and you're safe in the Premier League. A joke fan who doesn't think David Moyes should be your manager next season. I can't emphasize that enough. It's ridiculous. And I know you're West Ham, one of your clubs, Scott. So it's I don't know. Your thoughts on that? Am I being too far?
No, I'm going to quote Alex Rex and say I totally agree with everything you've just said. We'll get that printed on a t-shirt for you. I agree. And I was actually reading, I saw yesterday that Rodgers is linked with Leeds, funny enough, next season.
Wow.
Some wild rumours. And then I was looking at the comments, and like Leicester fans, good, unlucky if you get him, he's terrible. And then it's like, similar to what you said, he took you to the verge of Champions League twice. He won an FA Cup. He won the Community Shield. And do you know what? If they'd stuck with him, do you know what? I think they would be safe by now. I really do. I don't know why. I
totally agree with that.
Yeah,
I don't agree with everything you said.
I don't know why you'd sack him and get
Dean Smith.
Dean Smith in. I don't know what that meant. I think Dean Smith's a decent manager. I just don't know why you'd do that. And it's just the same as the West Ham thing. These sometimes football fans are so fickle. A few years ago, West Ham and Leeds were in the Championship. Just be grateful for where you are right now. You're in the Premier League. There's only 20 teams in there.
Absolutely. And anyway, it's the Leeds fans saying, I think we should go down and rebuild. I completely get all of those points, because they still would rather stay up and rebuild in the Premier League and everything go right there. I understand the statement isn't we want to go down statement. But yeah, again, be thankful for what you've got. Let's look at the fixtures, because I've rambled on a bit about that. I just had to get my point about West Ham, because they really annoyed me on the way home when I was listening to that. So there are only a few fixtures in the last game week of the season that actually got anything riding on them. But this is where I've had this conversation with Barry already, because we were back and forth in our WhatsApp group chatting about this. My one piece of advice to everybody coming to the last day of the season is you can all create narratives that are different for pretty much all of these fixtures. Don't try and guess what's going to happen on the last game week of the season, right? If you're looking to consolidate a position, if you're looking to have a solid end to the season, this, that, and the other, look to bring in tried and tested players that are in form from teams that have something to play for. So, for example, if you haven't got Harry Kane up front, Harry Kane is the sort of player that you would pick. And yes, Adrian Chippendale, thanks for your question. He has scored a lot of what you would call pointless goals this season. He hates Kane, honestly.
Pointless goals, what gets points from?
Exactly, it's funny, isn't it? But in the end, what you mean is pointless because they haven't made the Champions League, and that is that's just the club, I'm afraid. That's Spurs, very Spursy. But from a team like Spurs, who have, for example, him that's in form, you look at a player, maybe even like a Dwight McNeil has done some returns, I don't know, in Everton colours, something like that. Anyway, we'll get further into that in a minute. But Liverpool, for an example, they're going to have to play their full strength team. Man United, for example, if they don't beat Chelsea on Thursday, Liverpool play Southampton away. Southampton have the worst home record in the league, near enough, if they don't still already have the worst home record in the league. Trent returning in position, doing well. Salah, obviously a starting striker. He's one of the informed players in the league. He gets to return every game. It's for a moment in time. don't shy away from getting maybe Allison in as a goalkeeper or something along those lines. Curtis Jones has shown some really good form as a cheap midfield if you want to get someone like that in. Don't try and create narratives, is my point, that, usually just don't happen or something random happens. Go with informed players. If you are trying to do something a bit different, still you don't have to go create narratives. You can go with Eze at home to Nottingham Forest. They've got nothing to play for, but he's still at home to Nottingham Forest. Martin Odegaard's on form still in terms of returns as an Arsenal player. No, Arsenal aren't on form really, but in terms of a player, they're playing Wolves at home. Again, these are good fixtures for players that are doing quite well. Again, like Newcastle have still been performing really well, and they hit the post up 3 times against Leicester, and still should have scored some goals. I didn't watch the game, but I've heard that they still should have probably scored some goals, unless they didn't have any shots, or had one shot. So Callum Wilson's in form at this very moment in time. You could look at a player like that. Even look at Man United. I mean, make sure Rashford's fit and he plays Chelsea again. But a Man United player like a Rashford, they might not have anything to play for, but we can all go a bit crazy and try and pick somebody that seems to make sense to us in our heads. But you can go. Don't have to go too crazy. Scott, looking at these fixtures, what team sticks out to you that you think I might be investing in this last day of the season?
Well, funny enough, I was thinking Palace, actually, because they've been ticking along all right still, and I think Forest will just be. It's one of those for Forest. They are just going to have that relief. They've been through all that emotions last weekend. We're beating Arsenal to stay up. I think they're just. I think they'll lose like 3 or 4-0. Genuinely, really. I do like game. I think Palace will be up for it. Let's not forget, there's always goals on the final day as well. You can the sun will be out, goals will be flying in. I would say an Eze is someone I would be looking at. It's completely boring. Why I'm getting soaked into Leicester as well. I think West Ham will be resting some of their key players. Surely they get on that game on Sunday. Is it Europa? Is it the following Thursday, or is that another week?
No, it's it's another week, I think.
No,
I'll just get the fixtures up.
I've got it here, the 7th of June. So
it's another week. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe not. Maybe so. But they're not. Are you really going to want to risk a big player getting injured for your final? Mate, I don't think you are. I could see them going fairly strong at the weekend. At last home game and whatnot, keep some momentum going. But yeah, someone like the ultimate troll, that is James Maddison. I know he didn't start at the weekend, which surprised me a lot. That he looked a lot better when he came on the pitch.
Weird,
yeah, I think he starts. I think he's got to start your best player this season. He's the one who looks the brightest. I would look at a James Maddison. But yeah, I'd also be looking at Arsenal assets, like you say. But also a Man United asset. I think Man United, they get home to Fulham. Fulham, brilliant season, but nothing to play for, really. Man United's going to want to go out on a bit of a bang there. But again, the worry is anyone resting for ahead of the FA Cup final.
Well, I mean, again, it's 6 days till the final from that game. But you are right. Like, for example, if Rashford is remotely, let's say United get a point against Chelsea on Thursday. If Rashford is remotely not 100%, he ain't touching the pitch. So and the other problem with the United assets at the moment is they're just really inconsistent in terms of returns. Like, Anthony, Fernandez, Sancho, even like Casemiro, Eriksen, Martial, they're just, none of them are just great FPL assets right now. I mean, they're good people to potentially like gambler. If anyone, you go and Luke Shaw, he's getting all the bonus points, and United is still keeping. I mean, De Gea's already won the Golden Glove, which I think is hilarious because we've conceded so many goals, but we've kept the most clean sheets, and no one can surpass that now this season. think he's got like 16 clean sheets.
That it just shows how much you've been hammered in a few games, isn't it?
Oh, been absolutely battered in a few games. Like, the 4-0 to Brentford, 6 to City, 7 to Liverpool. Like, we've had a couple of really weird games. I think Arsenal put 3 past us, but a couple of really weird games this season. I mean, don't get me wrong, Liverpool, City, and Arsenal beating us isn't weird, but battering us is obviously a little bit weird. But it's obviously not, because we got beat 5-0 by Liverpool the season before. Anyway, moving on.
I'll be looking. Sorry, I was just going to say I'll be looking again at like a Villa. Just looking at that. If Brighton do get the point tonight, again, it's going to be that sort of euphoria. They'll be partying. They're guaranteeing Europa League. Villa pushing, needing to win that game at home.
Yeah,
you would potentially be looking for that Villa asset.
Yeah, I mean, someone like Watkins has lost form recently, hasn't he? And he missed a penalty, obviously, last week. But he's still somebody who you could potentially invest in. There's other Jacob Ramsey's also been returning. They've got options. Let's look at strikers to start with. So the informed strikers, I've done this over the last 6 or 7 appearances. I've done it over the last 5 game weeks because some of the people have played 5 games, 6 games, 7 games within that period of time. So per 90 minutes, the most informed striker in the league over the last 6, 7 games is Callum Wilson with 11 points per 90 on average, which is pretty crazy. This is hiding low minutes, so less than three appearances, I think. Then it's Haaland, then it's Kane. So no surprises there in terms of who's towards the top. And Buemo right up there as well. When Tony doesn't play, he does seem to deliver, and so does Visa, to be honest, or Vissa. They do seem to deliver, but they do have City last game, so I won't worry about investing in those guys too much. Vinicius has done quite well. That Eze-y, hasn't he scored 5 goals in his last 4 games?
Been flames, hasn't
he? He's been on fire. He is 5.6 million. And they play Crystal Palace last game of the season. You're not wrong to try and gamble on him, to be fair. If Jota starts, he's somebody that you would be interested in. But at the same time, I just can't predict how Liverpool are going to line up front 3-wise. Keep an eye out if Darwin Núñez is still injured, because he was injured. Was he injured still last week? I didn't check if flag was still on, actually. But I know he has been injured. So you would check. Let me just have a quick look on that. And strikers. Darwin's out. Yeah, still out. So between Firmino, Jota, Salah, Diaz, and Gakpo, only Salah's really nailed to start out of them lot, you'd have thought. So, but anyway, again, Jota. And then you've got players like Alvarez, who might get some minutes, Isak, but I think you can stick pretty ABC. I was going to say pretty 4-4-2, but that was going to confuse everybody. Pretty ABC with your strikers. I wouldn't go too crazy. This is where your midfielders is probably where you can get your differentials in, I think, in terms of form and points per 90 that they've played. So you've got Ilkay Gundogan at the top. He's played 4. He's had 4 starts in the last 6. So again, not guaranteed to start, but he's averaged 10 points per 90 over the last 5 game weeks. So he's, I think, the second best form out of anyone in the league behind Callum Wilson. Johan Visa, 6 appearances, 3 as a sub. Again, 8 points per 90. Then it's just Salah right up there. You can't look past Gibbs White. Now, the form he's had, I thought it was very funny that he's potentially the signing of the season for Jamie Carragher. I mean, that's recency bias, if I've ever heard it. My
Unbelievable recency bias.
What a horrendous shout. He has definitely not lived up to his value the majority of the season. But, to be fair to the guy, the last few weeks, he got 5 points against Arsenal, which was the assist. He got 2 points against Chelsea and blank. But then he got 11 against Southampton, 5 against Brentford, 7 against Brighton, and 12 against Liverpool. Before then, his points were 2-2, 2-2-2, 1-2-4, 2-5, 2-3. So, no. Well done, Carragher, on picking him as your signing of the season. But, yes, showing great form now. So, can't be overlooked. I think he's doing a really great job, and they play Crystal Palace. It's one of those anything games, really. You don't know what's going to happen there. Martin Ødegaard, 6.87 points per game. I think he's a really good shout to put in there. Phil Foden has got 6 appearances in his last 7 games, 3 as a substitute. Minutes being managed, but he seems to be returning when he's on the pitch. So as a punch, you could do that, but his minutes obviously be managed, I think, because he's probably not in the starting 11 for the Champions League final. Sterling, Willian, McNeil, and Mahrez round this off. Anyone on that list? First of all, Scott, just touch on the strikers. Any other strikers you think we may have missed there that we haven't talked about already? But and then onto I didn't think so. And then onto midfielders. Of this list of informed players, who are you thinking? I'm talking about more differential here rather than going for the obvious Mo Salah, etc.
Yeah, I'd probably looking at Mahrez, if I'm honest. You're punting. He plays obviously, but it's Man City, and regardless of what game it is, if they need to win it or not, they're still going to be creating lots and lots of chances. I think Mahrez has actually had a really, really good season. He doesn't fancy him in certain games, but like you said, there is players he does fancy in there. A Willian, but again, they're a way out there. I think we just discussed it. Yeah. Again, really tough fixture. If that fixture was reversed, I would be looking at a Willian. Again, he's looked really good. But for me, it would be probably those bottom 2 on that list: McNeil and Mahrez, M&M. McNeil is going to play. It's a must-win game for him, and I think they'll win the game. And no disrespect to Bournemouth, but it's one of the if you want a game at home, you're looking at Bournemouth, aren't you? They're already safe, but they're not particularly been pulling up trees this season. I've been looking at Dwight McNeil, and like you said, like you're showing now, when he returns, he returns.
Yeah, it's crazy because when he returns, he gets double digits near enough. I mean, yes, sure, he got 7 points against Arsenal, but 2, 2, 2, 2, 4, 11, 1, 2, 2, 10, 3, 8, 2, 21, 2 and 2. Like he can as easy. It's not like Mo Salah is probably going to get you a return, and same with Kane at the moment with their form. I feel like McNeil's either going to just get 12 or 14 points or 2. And he's somebody that you can, I think, definitely gamble on. He's 5.1 million. He's more than affordable. If people have got Martinelli left, no one can not afford Dwight McNeil. And again, I like Mahrez as a shout because I think he probably plays. He's that sort of player. I think Gibbs White's a shout, a really good, strong shout at 5.5 mil. Ødegaard's someone I'm considering because I think I agree with the guys on that football in terms of young player of the year. I think he's been unbelievable, really. Obviously, you can't include Haaland in it. That was the point of it, the point of it. But yeah, 6.8, really affordable and good. I think we've covered that off. Gundogan's obviously got a decent ceiling if they're resting De Bruyne, but it's just a gamble pick because you don't know what City's going to play. You don't know what team they're going to pick, do you? So here we are with the defenders. So last day of the season, generally, again, defenders aren't the ones to really invest in massively. But Trent is playing pretty much every minute. He's the informed defender in the league, but only averaging 6 points per 90. So when you are looking at the other options, he's actually not that high up the list in terms of actual current points that he has achieved per 90. And he is actually overachieving on his expected points by 1.25 points per game. So it's not like the Opta stats are saying he should be getting loads more points than he is, but still, he's top of that list. If you can get him in, that's great. Stones, whether he plays or not, who knows, is Stupinian. Cresswell hasn't had that many appearances, but West Ham going into the last game of the season play Leicester. So, Leicester have got something to play for. Luke Shaw's right up there. I think you just don't really overcomplicate it with defenders. If you're going to bother moving for a defender, I think you basically move for Trent or Shaw, really.
Yeah, because you go for something that's going to have an attacking returns potential as well, don't you?
Yeah, because I think you kind of maybe an Arsenal defender if you wanted to get someone cheap in and they're playing Wolves who don't really score many goals. But other than that, I think it's Trent, Shaw, and that's about it, really. I wouldn't bother worrying about investing in those guys. And everyone who's got any goalkeepers issues or worries, Alisson's obviously top of that list, really, of who you're going to get. And then I'll probably look at someone like De Gea again, maybe Ramsdale. That kind of covers off the players, really. There's not much more to touch on than that from the player side. I put together a free hit team, put one together without Haaland and one together with Haaland. So for you guys on the podcast, Alisson in goal, Trent, Shaw and Tierney, because Zinchenko's out for the season. Salah, Ødegaard, Rashford, Eze and McNeil, Kane and Alvarez. And then on the bench, I had Steele, Owani, White and Tyreek Mitchell. And then with Haaland, I had the same team other than Haaland in for Alvarez, and Holding came on for Tierney, and then the bench became a lot weaker. Everson, Evan Ferguson, Kiwior, centre half for Arsenal and Mitchell. Not that they really matter, to be fair. Just went really cheap on the bench. Scott, from your perspective, there'd be a few people left this season with free hit chips left. If I can move that one off the top of the other one, and you can see them both. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, that's the same one.
Oh, is it the same one?
Yeah.
Is it duplicated? Oh, that's
Yeah.
so annoying. Hold on, as if that's happened there. 1 second.
It's live TV. It's fine.
It's closed. 1 second. I'll reopen it. I mean, basically, long story short, Holding versus Tierney, Haaland versus Alvarez. That's the starting lineup. So yeah, what do you think of the teams anyway?
Yeah. I like the teams. You know, a lot of the players we've talked about there. You've got exciting. You got Trent, and the one we're looking at now is exciting, and Shaw as well. Yeah, you've got strong at home, which I'm looking at. I always think home last game of the season. You've always got to look at your home teams more than most other times, really, because you always want to finish. Even your Southampton. I'm not saying bring Southampton players in, absolutely not. But they're going to be wanting to go out and give them fans something to positivity going into the summer, as the commentators always like to say. But you'll be looking at. It's no surprise that your away players are Kane against Leeds, Man City with Haaland against Brentford, and Salah there. I agree with that. There's not too much I would do differently, if at all, to be honest with you.
What's have you had
the only thing I would do is just see if Haaland plays tonight. If he starts tonight, he's potentially not going to start maybe on the last game. But you never know. So who knows?
The thing is, still within the game, Dwight McNeil's like only 0.8% owned. If you want someone who's a big differential, Eze's sort of 8.6% owned. But like, yeah, and more of those owners are sort of higher up the leagues. But like someone like McNeil, for an example, is just so lowly owned. He can be someone who's going to be a differential. Which takes us on to our differentials of the week, Scott. I don't think Barry. I don't say Barry. Unfortunately, can't make it today. He's out of hospital for a
He's put one in. He's gone for Dwight McNeil.
Has he?
Yeah.
Of course he has, because he's chasing me in our differential league. So he's got 9 points to make up on me from being picking the best differentials each and every week. I guess I'll have to change my differential then, won't I? To be fair, it did seem a pretty obvious pick. I actually, I wanted to go for Bobby Firmino.
Yeah,
I think he'll play a lot. I think he'll play some minutes. I think he'll definitely appear. And they play Southampton, who are rubbish, and he's 2.7% owned. And it is a bit of a different differential pick. I thought I'd go for that. Scott, have you looked at yours yet? Less than 5% owned?
Yeah, I've looked at. I'm going to go for my TOTS. So TOTS stands for Troll of the Season. No. And that would be Mr. Maddison.
Maddison?
Yeah, 4.5% owned.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm off for James. I might even bring him in just for banner.
Let's talk about captain, shall we? Because I think captains is actually quite interesting this week.
I think is it a trickier week, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we'll have a variety of captains. I think it'd be good fun because Arsenal play Wolves, so Ødegaard's a potential captain in there, or an Arsenal player if you've got like a Saka or something, if you want to gamble on there. Brighton Villa, So Villa Brighton, I should say, Villa at home. So there's no real captain options in that one. Brentford play Man City. Man City are away. Is Haaland a minutes risk? Does he play? Who knows? Still, he could always get a hat trick. You don't know, do you? So he's an option. Chelsea play Newcastle. Crystal Palace play Forest. I mean, there might be some wild Eze shouts. You never know. He's on fire. Everton, Bournemouth, Leeds, Spurs. There'll be some Harry Kane captainers. That's for sure, because Leeds have the worst defence in the league, I think. Near enough, if not the worst defence in the league. Leicester play West Ham. So you're going to captain Maddison, I assume.
Yeah.
Man United play Fulham, and Man United are at home, and Rashford is a different beast at home to the one he is away. Rashford, we'll see some Rashford captains. And then Southampton are at home, who have the worst home record in the league. Near enough, I think they still do. Play Liverpool. So we'll definitely see some Salah captains. At the moment, my captain armband is on Mo Salah. That's where I am currently. Bit of a more dull pick. He's not really hitting massive heights at the moment, but he's still just returning every week. So he's one of the informed players in the league. I kind of thought it was a wise one. Scott, who's your money on?
Yeah, I think if Rashford's back, I think a Rashford would be someone I'd be looking at. That game seems enticing to me. Mm-hmm. If not, I think I'm throwing my captaincy on an Arsenal player.
Oh, I like it. Okay, yeah. They last game of the season, last season, when they'd already bottled the position they were in. Sorry, throwaway comment. When they were going to come. Well, I mean, if they'd have won last day of the season, Spurs would have lost, and they'd have still got fourth, I think. But Spurs won like 5-something, I think, wherever they were. Arsenal smashed the team they played, didn't they? Was it Everton? I can't remember what the game was, but I just remember they seemed to score a bucket load of goals last day of the season when the pressure seemed to be off them. So that young set of players might be able to deliver that again. Who would you go for if it was Arsenal? Why?
Personally, well, I've got Saka at the minute, so maybe Saka. He ain't done it for about 10 years, has he? I would like to, if I ideally go for Odegaard.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd captain Odegaard if I was captaining an Arsenal player this week. The Haaland captain shout, more than fair. It's just because he's a beast.
It's a bit boring, isn't it?
You just don't know if he's going to play all the minutes or not, do you? And that's the only thing, you know. But I think with the week before the FA Cup final, 6 games for the FA Cup final, then another 7 days for the Champions League final, I just think I can't see him not starting. So
just Arsenal 5, Everton 1.
That was it. Everton,
Martinelli, Nketiah, Cedric, Gabriel, and Odegaard. And do you know who scored for Everton?
Dwight McNeil.
No, one of your boys. One of your boys, very forgotten.
Oh God, who's got one of my boys?
Donny.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
he's been injured. Bless him. Back in training now, though, which is good for him. He's had a baby this year, so congratulations, Johnny. I know you listen to the pod. Chelsea, Newcastle. Yeah, Harry Kane as a shout. What do you think?
Yeah, the Leeds are awful, so 100%. Yeah, it's not a place I want to be. That Ellen Road on Sunday. I don't even know if Leeds is a place I want to be on Sunday.
The thing is, you absolutely know, and I know it's going to be a game of 2 halves because neither team can play for 90 minutes, can they? No. It's just. I think these two teams. I mean, Leeds have dropped the most points from leading positions in the league this year. I think it's like 25 points or something crazy, which is scary. And Spurs also just are terrible for at least 45 minutes. So it could be an anything game, that one. Exciting, interesting. Mo Salah from your perspective, Scott? Sorry, I've said my piece on him. What do you think is a captain option?
As a non-Mo Salah owner, it's been quite an annoying few weeks, to be honest with you. So you can't deny the horrendousness that is Southampton at home. Again, a crowd which I'm looking at Everton, I'm looking at Leeds to a certain extent, as that first goal is massive, but also that Southampton game. You know, they're going to try and get the boys up. If they get an early goal behind, that Southampton crowd will just go really quiet.
Yeah, it's it could be another 9-0. Really, I think that's how that could go. Honestly, I think it's just one of those games that and like the Arsenal Wolves game, for example, it just could be anything. Those Like, you just don't know, do you? You create all sorts of narratives, guys. You can create all sorts of narratives. Let's finish off by recapping. Here we are, the final game week of the season. 4 Warriors who have been at it all year. Barry Stokes, David Byrne, Jeff Belcher, and Gavin Webb. One of them will be the champion of the All in Football Podcast League and will take over from Adrian Chippendale, who is down 16th at this moment in time, but he former champ. And also, we've got 4 players in the cup. We've got both wheels. We've got Steve Cousins, and Len Deacon. And one of them will take over from our very own Barry Stokes as the cup winner. So good luck to everyone going into the final game week of the season. If you are trying to beat a rival in a mini league, do pay attention to what their team is and what moves they could make. And, try and beat your mates. And I said this last season, but don't worry too much about weird green and red arrows last day of the season in your overall rank, unless you are, going to be the champion of FPL. Don't worry about it because anything can happen last day of the season. Scott, thanks for joining me.
No worries. I've just seen I'm in a semi-final in the cup.
You are. It's against me, innit?
The Callum, for the fun of it.
Oh, and I'm in the other one, aren't I?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the other semi-final. I don't know how I'm getting on. I think I'm playing DC, I think. So I think I'm winning by...
you're 49-39 up against Baz.
Baz. Oh, I played Baz in the
we've
Fun of It
smashed
Cup.
it, me, you and Baz, haven't we?
Come on. Right, so is it potentially me and you in the final of that?
Could be, yeah. Let's see who Callum's got. Yeah, we pretty cancel each other out. Could do a Rashford play, and he's got Trippier on the bench for 9.
Okay, fine. Well, there you go. But I think that's some past seasons, really, Scott. We would end up being in the final of the For the Fun of It Cup.
That'd be cute, wouldn't it?
It would be nice.
As soon as I went out the last one on goals scored.
Let's not talk about that last minute bloody penalty for Brighton screwed me in after Adrian knocked me out. It's the way it is. But there's always next year, and if we do make the For the Fun of It Cup final, then best of luck, Scott.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks everyone so much for joining us. Don't forget to follow us on our Instagram, social media, Twitter. Follow us on TikTok if you want. I mean, I don't post on it ever really, but join us on it. Why not? Unfootball Pod, Unfootball P, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and then subscribe to the channels where you get your videos and podcasts from. And good luck, Game Week 38. Bye for now.
It didn't say recording stop. It's still recording.
It's about to say recording stop.
Oh, sorry, mate. Bloopers.
Oh, bloopers! I pressed the wrong button. Bye for now.